On June 1st, I had the opportunity to go to the Galloping Ghost Arcade. This isn't my first visit, however, so why would I go again? Is it just such a great experience that I just have to go there? Not exactly, but it turns out that Mark from the Electric Underground is going to be there. So I thought, why not make a vlog-style video of my experience at the Galloping Ghost Arcade, and maybe we can sneak an interview in too. So come on this journey with me, and we can see what Mark and the Galloping Ghost Arcade is all about.
It is June 1st in the morning, 9-something in the morning.
I bet you Mark woke up like this too.
Yes. I woke up with my Super Saiyan hair.
So, before I even start anything, I have a gift for you.
Oh, snap. Streamer reacts.
Yes.
What is it? Let's find out. Nice. Just what I needed.
Had to do it. Product placement, definitely. We're definitely getting paid. You know, we're just really getting to know each other, so I'm just like, you know, it's some Coke Zero.
Next time will be the Dodonpachi PCB.
Yeah, that's right.
Coke Zero to Dodonpachi PCB.
Yeah, I definitely have about 12 of those in my closet.
Okay, so when I was younger, I actually was not into shmups at all, other than Raiden.
Sure.
And I actually believed all shmups were Raiden games. So if I saw a shmup, I'm like, that's Raiden. Or that's like Raiden's, brother. I actually literally thought all shmups were Raiden for years. So Raiden likes, we can call him. All the way up until high school.
Yeah.
My friend had modded Xbox, and we're just going through MAME
Yes.
on his modded Xbox.
Yes.
And there's a game called Sexy Parodius.
Ooh, I know that one.
Two horny teenage boys were like, Sexy Parodius? Okay, what's this? And then we were playing it, and we had to like get through it to some degree to see the funny, sexy stuff. And so we're like researching, like, how do you play this shit? And we never were any good at it. And that's where I learned the term shmup.
Okay.
Because I was like, I was like, this is Raiden, but it's sideways. This doesn't make sense. Raiden doesn't go sideways.
No.
It only goes up.
Right.
So then we had to look, okay, this is a genre called shmups. And I actually got to know the genre through that term. A lot of OG guys, shooters. They're like, shmups are shooters. I was like, I never used that term once in my life. Because my whole life, shooters were FPS.
Right.
But the term shmup stuck in my mind. And I kind of remember how much when I had with Sexy Protus. But then I got into, I guess you'd call like speed challenge runs. But that wasn't really as formally recognized back then. Okay. So I moved, and I just brought my PS2 with me. Sure. And I decided, you know what? I'm going to get like really good at Metal Gear Solid. Yeah. So I played like Metal Gear Solid 3 and Metal Gear Solid 2 on Extreme. Yes. For like a year straight.
Is that the European Extreme?
European Extreme, that's right.
Yeah.
And and I made up rules like, oh, if you get spotted, you have to kill yourself. And I was like doing these sort of like challenge runs in Metal Gear. And I think that kind of primed me for when Street Fighter 4 came out. Because I was like, I wanted to play some sort of skill-based competitive game that wasn't an FPS. Sure. My brothers and everyone, they played competitive FPS. And I was like, I want to like do more classic style gaming competitively. Yeah. So that translated into playing Melee. I was a Melee boy. Okay. Then I started playing a bit of Third Strike. Okay, here's the connection. Sure. I started playing Street Fighter 4. Yep. And then Street Fighter 4's online was hellish. And I had great internet. Contrary to what you might think, people in Idaho have like amazing internet. My ping with people in California is like crazy low. So I got really good connection, but people in California are like really good. So they're kicking the shit at me. Yeah. So I got kind of burned out on that. And I was like legit raging and, like smashing my arcade in my house. But I was like, I can't take this anymore. The origins of me hating input lag. Yep. I mean, Street Fighter 4, you can thank Street Fighter 4 with a lot of that. That's where I first became aware of like input lag with Street Fighter 4 because one of the versions, I think the Xbox 360 version had less input lag than the PS3 version. Okay. And I had a PS3. And so I was playing on PS3. Then I went over to my friends. He's like, no, PS3 is for losers. you got to play on the Xbox 360. I'm like, you just say that because you have an Xbox 360. You know, He's like, no, it has less lag.
Right.
He didn't even know what input lag was. But the 360 guy's like, it's better than PS3. Don't even question it.
Yeah.
So then we sat down and played it. I was like, oh my God, it is better. I actually had a little bit of awareness of input lag too because of emulators. I would emulate Super Metroid.
Yes.
I used to speedrun Super Metroid on SNES, and then you'd go to speedrun Super Metroid on like SNES 9X, and you could like feel the lag.
Yes.
And then I actually found Z-SNES, which has like less input lag. Yes. But that's like banned because it's like not accurate. Yeah, they won't let you use, speedrunners won't let you use Z-SNES. Okay. So anyway, I was like, I forget that. Forget you. If I can't use Z-SNES, fuck you.
Yeah. That's how that was the first emulator I used.
Z-SNES
on the
is
Super
so
Nintendo.
Cool.
Yeah,
I love Z-SNES.
Is that the one with the snowy?
Yes.
Yeah.
Is it accurate? No. It is not remotely accurate, but it's fast and cool. I started playing Fightcade for Third Strike because it had rollback netcode and low input lag, and I was obsessed with that at the point, still am. But on Fightcade, it has a list of games. It's not a bunch. It doesn't have all of them, but it's like 100 something. And on that list, there were 2 games that I was like, what the hell? Because I was like, what is this? Right. One of them was Metal Slug, and one of them was Dononpachi. I was like, I'm gonna play Metal Slug and like beat it. I didn't even know what a 1cc was.
Sure.
I said, I'm gonna beat it. I think it's the perfect game because Metal Slug is like a mean bastard and doesn't give you extends, and like you game over and the game like laughs at you. That game really cemented the concept of a 1cc. And then that's why I learned the term, because it's like, what do you call it when you beat Metal Slug without dying? Oh, it's a 1cc.
Yeah.
And then from there I was like, I'm not gonna like do this all the time. So then I went through and I like beat a bunch of like, but these weren't 1cc's.
The competitiveness in you is so innate.
Exactly.
At this point, it's a character trait.
Yeah, especially because at the time I was playing fighting games online.
Yeah,
so
that makes sense.
My ass handed to me in like A rank, and I'm like, oh, I want to take it out. I want to take it out on something. But then I went into Dononpachi, and that was like the genesis of the whole thing. So
that was literally
was like that's why I reference it so much. And I remember when I first came into playing shmups, like Dononpachi taught me how to play shmups. That's why I always recommend it too, because it's like the game that will teach you how to play shmups. It's mean about it.
Yeah, of course.
It's not as nice about it as other shmups.
Sure.
But by damn, it will teach you. There are certain patterns, like for example, the last boss of Loop 1, so the one where he throws the spears. That final attack, I spent hours and hours just save stating it and like dissect that attack. It's one of my favorite patterns to this day. It teaches you how to dodge, basically. A more advanced style dodging. That's the whole genesis point. And then I read Prometheus's Guide, Full Extent to the Jam, which is about Dononpachi. So when I came into the genre, I thought for sure Dononpachi is like it. It's like the greatest shmup ever.
Sure.
It's up there, definitely. But I remember coming in and being like, we all agree. But I thought it was like unanimous. You know what I mean? How we all came in and like, Dononpachi's the best. We all agree, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. 100%. There's no dissent on this.
Through watching your content, you've said many times that Dononpachi is your favorite shmup.
Yes,
but it's cool to get the lore of how it got to that point.
Well, then
because it was basically it wasn't your first shmup. You said you ride and stuff like that, but it was
Raiden is my first shmup.
It was like the shmup with your intention.
Yes, it's my first like.
And what a great way to start. Like, that is a great game.
Like when Neo comes out in the Matrix and he like realizes I'm the one, and he can use his powers.
Yeah.
Because I like had my hardcore gamer powers at that point from fighting games and all these other genres, but now I could apply them for real.
It's kind of with any skill is that like once you kind of push yourself in general, it's weird to talk about it in video game sense, but like you could literally apply this to anything. Is that once you're maybe even something's kind of intimidating, right? You hear that all the time about shmups, like, oh, I don't know where to start, it's scary. But the more you kind of tackle things little by little, harder and harder, the more you realize that, like, oh, I actually do have this ability. Like, I could push myself even farther.
My favorite video of his, despite how good his shmup content is when he's talking about the cultural reception of said game, movie, or whatever. Specifically that he critiques it at the point of the art, not through the lens of activism and not through the lens of an ideology. And I feel like that's how things should be criticized.
The point of this is not to talk about the social issues of it all, but to say the way you look at these things can be through an artistic lens or through sort of an activist lens. And these are actually two distinct lens from one another. And I think that's getting more and more lost, especially with film criticism.
That's the funny thing about Mark, and he did explain this to me as well, is that he's extremely apolitical. He tries to do that as much as possible. And I can't blame him. He's not really on Twitter. He basically keeps it to his YouTube channel and his Discord. And the way people debate over things, I can't blame the guy.
I knew that Stellar Blade video would like break the internet's brain.
Yes.
The discussion around games now is very sort of social, politically oriented. What comes first, game design or your social political views? I think 99.9% of YouTubers and game reviewers will put their social political views first, and I'll put my game design views. For a lot of people, they could not compute. Because they assumed, oh, I was critical of the game because Eve is hot. I literally talking about like Dead or Alive and Dead or Alive Extreme in the video.
Yes.
So then it's like, okay, so he doesn't have a problem with Eve being hot, but then what could you have a problem with?
Right.
I mean, isn't that the only thing wrong with this game? Is Hershey's hot?
Right.
It's like, no. Game design, gameplay integrity is higher for me than whatever social, political stuff people talk about. I really wish like game critics would be a little bit more like that. With Stellar Blade, for example, when I was talking about all the problems with its gameplay, it wasn't that people like disagreed. If people were like, what are you even talking about? There's this really weird sort of bias towards like game design where it's like, if it's newer, it's better.
Yes.
Outright. So then the only thing that can be wrong with remakes is their social political crap.
And the hard part is if you try to justify the sex appeal, it's just, oh, you're a coomer. On surface level, I can see where they could come from that, but it's not accurate.
I have this like need for like real honesty, maybe because I grew up in like Idaho where it's like you can't talk about anything, like even basic shit. I was always the kid in class or stuff. I'm like, I'm saying the thing you're not supposed to say, but we all think. And I had this in college too. It was funny too. We were sitting in college and they're all talking about this is a problem, this is a problem, this is a problem. And I was like, yeah, but we all like it, don't we?
Right.
And everyone's like, yeah, shut up, shut up, dude. Shut up. I'm trying to get an A here.
I'm not going to pretend that things that are tantalizing isn't alluring to me as a man.
Exactly.
Now, can you do that egregiously and be a weirdo about it?
Exactly.
Yes.
Yes, you can. I don't like to be a liar. So it's the like, are you a creep or you're a liar? And I don't want to be either. Ninja Gaiden.
Yes.
No, Ninja Gaiden's got some
these
great,
are like BDSM
yeah,
borderline
there's
stuff
some
with
great
that blonde chick.
TNA and all that stuff. But Ninja Gaiden, the gameplay itself. Oh yeah. It's you know what I mean? Team Ninja are really good about taking that core and making it really, really strong. And then their whole mentality is like, let's make this fun and sexy. But they do really care about that game design and making it like really powerful and good. I was really hoping Stellar Blade would be that.
I'll tell you when I specifically started being cautious. I saw the trailer, I saw a little bit of what they wanted to do. It's like, okay, this looks like character action. But as soon as I saw a trailer talking about, so this is the world, I'm like,
oh yeah, no. Yeah, right.
So
it's Final Fantasy.
To me, Mark isn't a YouTuber. He is a guy that happens to have a YouTube channel. And what I mean by that, he is just very honest with his opinions. That could be seen as, brutal or whatever, but for anyone who has seen his content, maybe a modern game comes out that everyone likes. He might not like it. It's easy to assume that it's just to be malicious or to stir the pot, but that's not who Mark is. He tells you how he views it, and that's it. He is just simply trying to express himself.
Well, I think this gotcha stuff is...
That's probably...
Yeah, I think this is it, because at first for a long time, I still think a lot of like the RPG-ification of everything, I still really don't like that. Stellar Blade, for example, here's an example.
Okay.
Teching in that game, like getting off the ground, waking up, is a literal RPG mechanic. You have to like unlock it and stuff like that. Like basic things are just being broken down into gameplay elements. So when you first play the game, it is the lamest garbage you've ever played. But then everyone says, oh, no. That's because you haven't played the game 40 hours and unlocked the real game. Because basically a lot of even action games now, you can't get to the real game unless you sit through hours and hours of bullshit and grinding. And then at some point you get to the real game and then you realize the real game is like really shallow.
Yes.
But it took me 40 hours to get there.
Yeah.
And it makes reviewing them a pain in the ass.
Yeah, because it's a slog now.
It's a slog, yeah. I remember because now it's okay. I'm gonna go full time in September.
Yes.
Then played Stellar Blade, and then I laid in my bed and I'm like, what am I doing with my life? Is this my life? I'm going to be playing Stellar Blade the rest of my life? Then I was like, no, Mark, you were tricked by this one. But the gotcha stuff, I think, is like the stuff to watch for. Right now, it's still kind of like, okay, it's just some fun little things. But what they're going to do is they're going to break up games and just monetize it in like more clever ways. That's what I'm saying. Like the old school way that everyone talks about, like of microtransactions and DLC, devs have figured
Costumes, skins.
Yeah, devs have figured out, hey, that's like, they're on to that now. Game design now is going to get a lot more tricky about, hey, like, I don't have any microtransactions, but they're just padding out games that should be $30 and selling to you for $60. Or they're just not giving you as much game, but they fill it with so much filler garbage that you think you got more game than you did.
Yeah.
I think this is the scary part, because not only you're wasting your time, but you're also paying more money. Like Stellar Blade should be way smaller and $30.
Yeah, your video also made me go like, yeah, maybe I should just wait.
Definitely, definitely wait on that one.
Mark's quenched. We're ready to continue.
We had to rescue people from the rain.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, they were like out there, and like for our account, which was totally unnecessary. You guys didn't have to do that.
That would be a really good fucking interview, guys.
yeah.
Yes, Sonic Adventure Battle 2, The Chow Garden is like my gaming ASMR. The funny thing is, though, is that for a while I would just, especially like when I was in high school and stuff, you just play it to relax. Cozy game, as they call it. That was my cozy game. But then, unfortunately, I discovered stat manipulation, glitches, and then you can like breed the chows to have like better stats. Then it became kind of this dark sort of like eugenics program I started to do with them, where I was like, oh, we gotta crossbreed them, and then you can do glitches to get more rings, to get more items and stuff, and you can like do vial glitches so you can keep using the same vials. Yeah. So the problem is that whenever I start playing a game like for casualness, if I play it for too long, these instincts will start to arise, and all of a sudden now I'm speedrunning my Chow Garden.
It's funny as you were explaining that, I'm thinking like, just again, is innate in you to just break these things down into its raw elements.
I think it's because I can't, when I'm gaming, like the pursuit of that I find a lot more interesting and exciting than like the comfort of certain games. Some of them, I guess, that are just easy that I still play for comfort, like Pokemon Red, Gen 1 and Gen 2 Pokemon, because they just have a great pace to them. And I've noticed that like the RPGs that are simple and have good pace, I can sit down with those. So like Advanced Wars, Fire Emblem.
Well, it's funny you say Advanced Wars, because even though there's like a story, it's
just pure gameplay.
That's all it is.
Yeah, so those are the RPGs that I am kind of I gravitate towards.
Yeah.
My story on YouTube is like the opposite of like, this is how you do it right. It's definitely not my, like if someone asks me for YouTube advice, it's like, well, grind away for 7 years and you might make some progress at some point. But I think always my biggest struggle, even at the beginning, is my tendency towards like being kind of like niche and being a little esoteric. And at the start, I would do things that were actively bad, and I kind of knew it, but I was like, no, that's authentic and cool. My very first podcast episodes, the audio quality is terrible. And I knew it was terrible. One, I was like a little bit shy because it doesn't sound as much like me because it's shitty sounding. So it's like, but also I was like, I would listen to like bootleg like music and stuff. I'm like, it's bootleg and like and that kind of stuff. And the funny thing is, unless you're like already famous and cool, like making bootleg stuff is not charming. It's just stupid. So stuff like that. Over the years, I slowly like, okay, production quality is kind of important and stuff like that. So it's been kind of a journey. I really like how iterative my channel has been over the years. It's grueling and exhausting. Like I said, it's not exactly the fastest way to grow a channel, but I put out ideas, talk to people about them, refine, make some like blunders and shit, be like, okay, I learned that. But on YouTube, you feel like shit doing that because YouTube makes you feel like a complete loser.
I'm feeling
all the time. Yeah. I don't know if I have the best advice, but other than like if you keep doing it and it doesn't totally make sense that you're doing it, but you're still doing it anyway, that probably means you like it.
Yes.
Because when I was first doing the channel, everyone's like, what the hell are you doing? And it's like, and for a long time I was like, hey, this is just my outlet. Otherwise,
Yes.
I would just sit in my room and rant at the wall.
Yeah.
So at least I'll put it online and talk to people about
Yeah.
it and stuff like that. So I'm really excited about going full time.
Yes.
I'm like, it's not a guarantee it's gonna work out, but I'm going
Sure.
to give it my best effort.
Yes.
You know.
Well, I'm glad you even got to that point. Obviously, whoever's watching, you can go subscribe to him on
Yes.
Patreon and things like that.
Yes,
so,
please.
So especially if he's going full time.
Yes, please.
But give me double the money, please.
Yeah, just give him double the money and then
Yeah,
give me
yeah,
some.
yeah. He can have the sense. What it sounds like is you're trying to do two things simultaneously. It's you're being real to yourself, but you just want to be real in general.
Exactly.
I've heard this story. So you're in Africa and your job is studying animals, right? You're studying zebras.
Yeah.
So what you do is if you're trying to look at one zebra, you have to mark them because otherwise you look at them, you write something down, you look up, it's gone. They're lost in the herd, right?
Yeah.
So what you do is you either clip their ear or you mark them.
Uh-huh.
So you're doing that for a while, and then a line comes up and it kills the one that's marked.
Right.
And you get my point with this now.
Yeah.
Is like it stood out. So you have to expect that like if you have a different opinion,
It's gonna
you
get
better
mauled.
back it up
Yeah.
or you're gonna be eaten alive.
Yeah.
Or sometimes you do back it up very well and you still get eaten alive.
Yeah, that's
so that's
you gotta
still
take
scary.
cover.
Yeah.
You gotta run and hide.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was saying this in my last Patreon episode where I was talking about like strategies for dealing with like online backlash. Don't be arrogant because the power of the internet will obliterate you. Even if you like manage to like show one person they're wrong or like one person or convince one person, you got 3,000 other 4,000 other 5,000. It's like this endless. Oh, you can't be the guy in 300 fighting the entire army.
No.
You have to be like Metal Gear Solid. You have to take cover, hide in
Yeah,
a box,
yeah.
and wait for the enemies
Yeah,
to
yeah,
leave.
yeah.
You can't parry the internet.
Yeah.
The internet cannot be parried. Our minds are not geared for this. I remember one guy said this. He says, "I agree with everything you said. I think all your points were good, but I hate you and I can't stand you." That was the comment. I was like, KO. What do I do there? I can't convince him to not hate me and cannot stand me. You could make the greatest video ever.
Yeah.
You're not going to dodge that comment. I think talking to people, like-minded people, is the biggest positive.
Yes.
Because I live a pretty isolated life out in Idaho.
Yeah, you're in Idaho. That's right.
I'm a raving lunatic, basically. But I think that is going to be the case with my audience demographic.
Sure.
I think that's why it's so like scattered and global.
Yeah.
Because it's like a sector of gamers that exists, but it's not going to feed into the mainstream. When I do videos like Stellar Blade and I do like my Resident Evil 4 video and stuff,
Yeah.
getting massive backlash from like mainstream gamers and stuff isn't fun. So I'm not trying to get the whole enchilada.
No.
I'm just trying to chip away at like kind of my demographic.
Sure.
And those videos, people always say like, hey, that video really connected with me because literally no one else was saying this.
I think when people, play some of these games and they really like it, and then they hear a criticism,
Oh my god.
it's
I just
almost
ruined
like
their birthday.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, the Boghog mentions this to me a lot, which is funny. It's like he says, well, they don't just get mad at you because you're just like emptily criticizing things.
No.
I could literally be ruining the game for some people. Like literally, because there's some things once you see it, you can't unsee it.
You talked about when you play like shmups, it was almost like Coke. You want the stuff hard and you want it fast kind of a thing.
Yeah.
And I think because of that gameplay density, as you put it,
Yeah.
you're so tuned into that it's like you've had the hard stuff and it's so hard to go back. At this
Exactly.
point. I think if you keep the idea, it's like, well, if he's had the hard stuff all the time, I don't need to take it so personal
Yeah, exactly.
that he
Plus,
doesn't
it's
agree
art
with
critique.
this.
I think
Yeah.
also too. This is why I really dislike all the, social commentary thing, because it makes it personal.
Yes.
And if everyone took a step back and viewed what I do as art critique,
Yes.
as in you could completely disagree with me 100,000%, and we could still be like the best of friends.
Yes.
Like my family and friends, they have no taste overlap with me
No.
in the slightest.
No.
And I'm not used to people agreeing with me.
Yeah.
So actually for me, like the weirdest experiences are when like a group of people are like, Mark, you're like, we like totally vibe and agree with you. I'm like, oh my god.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, I think that's where we're going to end it here. I think we should just go to the Galloping Ghost Arcade and actually play some games
Yeah.
now.
Brookfield arcade games? What is it in for you? What do you like about it?
To like take the thing that Mark says on Electric Underground,
Sure.
gameplay density
Sure.
is definitely a thing. I think I found his channel when I was like buying a bunch of like Dreamcast stuff and Sega Saturn stuff, and I would just realize that I really like the games that are focused and fun and immediately like pulls you in. Easy to get into, hard to master kind of stuff. So my family would go on vacation, and there's this Metal Slug arcade cabinet in this hotel, and I had the N64, it had better graphics, but like kept playing Metal Slug X, and I'm like, why do I like this more? Like I couldn't understand it. Was that like Blazing Chrome? It was that indie one. That one was really fun.
Yeah, I played through that one.
It was like so hard that I'm like, I'm not even gonna try to 1cc it, but like I enjoyed playing that.
Well, I'm glad actually we're talking about this because like there's something to be said about casually playing something that's tough. I think a lot of people can see that and go, ooh, that's not for me. But despite that, you got someone like me, someone like you, that can jump into that. Why do you think that is?
Like I was saying earlier, like you can immediately get into it. You understand the objective of the game. You don't need to like, it's like maybe 1 to 3 buttons.
Sure.
And a lot of the skill is just going to become like memorization, dodging, and all that. But you can immediately get into it, and you can credit feed and see the whole thing. That's what
true.
I do on like Shmups too. I'm like,
emulators,
okay, I want to
things
see
like that.
all the art. I want to hear all the music, and then I'll come back and I really just start grinding it out.
Yeah.
So I can like get further. Like naturally.
Well, anyway, we're gonna keep going down, and I appreciate your time.
Yeah, definitely.
Thank you very much,
Good
Jack.
to meet you.
Yeah, you have an excellent day.
Just to give you guys a little bit more context of when I first went to the Galloping Ghost Arcade, you know, I heard about this place. I look at the website, they had like all of these games listed, like anything you could think of. It apparently they have it. So what you might envision is like this big place, but what it is, and it is big, it's just different kind of big. And what I mean by that is, imagine like a mom and pop pizza shop, then they keep on adding additional space to it, and more additional space, and more additional space. Then it becomes this maze and claustrophobic amount of arcade cabinets in these spaces.
When you think that it's over, it's not.
Yes, they technically have like 1,000 games, but it's cramped. If you're expecting a candy cab Japanese experience, you can think again.
Kind of sad that like
Oh, that's
you know,
it, yeah.
that one, you know, you have all these rare cabinets.
Yes.
But then I play 2 clears of whatever 2 shmups.
Sure.
And I've already got like the claw hand that's just like you're sore and you're like, I don't know if I can play another round.
Yeah.
Just because like these layouts are they're spread out and they're so bizarre.
Yes.
And not very ergonomical at all.
Because as cool as it is that everything's here, it almost seems like it's more like quantity more than the quality of the cabs.
Absolutely.
Which is so unfortunate.
And the funny thing about all this, despite the color issues, despite the button issues, Mark's gang still 1cc'd a lot of these shmup titles. In fact, a lot of them made it on high scores. Now, I don't mean to complain, so to give the Galloping Ghost some credit, is that when you have damn near 1,000 cabs, maintenance must be a bitch. Because it's not just nerds who are coming into this place. There's dates, there's families, there's trips. I mean, these people are coming here and they're using the cabinets all the time. As I said earlier, it wasn't just people coming to see Mark that made it busy. It was a Saturday and there was just regular ass people that wanted to play some arcade games. So we have to give credit where credit's due to the Galloping Ghost. Where can you do that anywhere else? They also had one of my favorite fighting games in general. It's not that it's rare or anything, but I was happy to see it. Street Fighter EX, so naturally I had to put a few rounds into that one.
Is that the trick? Just do that.
Eventually, me and the cameraman found a couple games that we actually play on Fightcade. That was Waku Waku 7. Another one we've played a few times was Super Gem Fighter. It was nice to see that as well. But they even had some less known arcade games such as Martial Masters, the IGS game. I mean, yes, arcades can be seen as dated, but there are just some games out there that you're not going to get the same experience no matter how good your emulation is. For instance, I got to play LA Machine Guns. I haven't played that game since I was in 5th grade. That game has 2 giant-ass machine guns with recoil, and how are you going to simulate that at home? Sure, you can set it up on your PC, get it running, maybe even get a widescreen hack on it. Ooh, that sure looks nice. Are you playing with your mouse? Are you playing with your Sinden light gun? But it is not the same. That's just not an experience that I'm probably going to replicate again unless places like the Galloping Ghost Arcade keeps these things alive. So to wrap everything up, how was my overall experience? I'd say pretty positive. You know, despite the issues with the Galloping Ghost, and I can be cynical about that, but there's certain ways to overlook that. For instance, the whole reason I went in general is to meet Mark from the Electric Underground. I have to really thank him for even agreeing to the interview. Him and his crew have been incredibly kind to me, despite being a filthy credit feeder. I have to also thank my cameraman, my friend, for even coming out and doing this with me. Honestly, this could have been way worse without you, so I really appreciate that. I think the overall thing to take away from this is the fact that Mark gave this niche, hardcore, weird, dorky little hobby some notoriety. Of course, there were other people before Mark, but the meat and potatoes that he offers on his channel is kind of hard to compare to anyone else. That passion for gaming and shmups in general is what cultivated this trip as an ultimate success for everyone. People as far as Texas, I think I heard someone from Canada. I also wanted to thank anyone who wanted to participate in this vlog/interview video. I really appreciate your input, and I appreciate you wanting to be a part of this in general. I guess the last few things to say is thanks for watching, guys. Feel free to subscribe to my Patreon. I'm not going to pretend that this trip was free. It was not, but I did this out of my own volition. I don't have any expectations, but if you guys really like what I did here or what I continue to do, feel free to subscribe on Patreon. I would really appreciate that. Anyway, I think that's everything. So I'll probably see you around some other time. Bye-bye.
This was a big one, guys, so thanks for sticking around and watching this entire video. I really appreciate that. Shout out to Mexi50Kale on my contributor tier on Patreon. If you guys like my work, go ahead and click on that Patreon link in the description. Anyway, take it easy, guys.